Well, here's the basic HTML. And pretty standard stuff. We have HTML5 doc type, got a heading of the document. What's interesting up here in lines 6 to 8 is one of our workarounds for Internet Explorer. This is what's called a conditional comment in HTML. You can Google it if you'd like, but what it's doing is it's taking some script that Google provides and giving, i.e. if it's less than version 9, the same HTML5 functionality as all the other browsers have. We're pulling in a style sheet. I'll show you that one here in a little bit. And then what we have here is a body. And the body tag looks long, but we essentially have 3 elements. We have navigation up here, which is an unordered list with a bunch of list items. I'll mention those in the CSS. Almost all navigation is done with unordered lists. I hope you guys got a chance to cover that in your HTML classes. Down here, as far as the newsletter goes, we have a form. You can see the form right there. It's in orange. It's wrapped with a wrapper to help position it on the page. A wrapper is just a div tag that's being used to contain the form. And down here, the pizza order form is contained in a div with a class of form wrapper, and it is surrounding this form right here to order pizza. It's basically a bunch of text fields. I think there's one field called number. Number is a construct of HTML5. It'll default to text if the browser doesn't recognize what that type is. The one other thing, because HTML5 will do some validation for your forms, I put a no validate attribute in all the forms. I believe I put it up here as well in the form wrapper for the mailing list sign up. And that way HTML5 doesn't do some nice things that it normally does, but we don't want it to do that. We want to understand some of the background tasks. Then at the very end, I link to a script, and the reason I put it at the end is we've been talking in the other videos about how you don't want your JavaScript to run before your page is drawn, before all the code for your page is loaded in. And this is an easy way of assuring that by just sticking at the end of your document. Google even used to recommend you do this for their analytics. Since then, they figured out how to do it in the head of a document, and we will be making some adjustments so that we can do that as well. So that's the HTML document. If you look at the CSS, pretty standard stuff. I have a reset up here to reset a bunch of the block level elements. We have some styling, some generic styling just to make things look nice. Our forms, however, have got some fancy schmancy stuff in them. What you probably haven't seen a lot of is that down here on the label for all the form elements, I've chosen to display them inline block. Normally they would be just an inline element, but making them inline block means I can give them a width. If I give them a width, then I can align them right and make them look nice. Navigation is probably the most advanced piece. Normally you would see this in a dedicated CSS class. Maybe you covered some of this, I hope, in your HTML CSS class. What is unique is we've taken our anchor tags and displayed them as a block. We've taken our list items and made them an inline block so that they stack right next to each other, unlike what their normal behavior is, which is stacking on top of each other instead of next to each other. You can refresh yourself on some of these things in your textbooks from previous courses or do some searches online. But this is pretty common stuff. It's lots of fun. I typically will list my box model elements or attributes first here, margin, border, and padding in the CSS. If you got any questions on this, shoot me an email. We're starting out with nothing on the script, so let's get going on our tasks. Here in the code, one of the things we want to do is we want to look at the navigation, and we want to add some events to the navigation. Something simple, so let's go in and do that. Notice these have IDs, which make them really nice to talk to from a scripting standpoint, but for our standpoint, we don't even need that right off the bat. What we need to do is just simply here in this anchor tag, just about anywhere, just add an onClick equals and quote unquote. Remember, all our attributes, properties in HTML are surrounded by quotes. And we'll say alert. And inside the alert, notice I'm using a different style of quote marks so that the browser doesn't get confused. And we'll say we could escape out another quote mark, but I'll just not do that for right now, but keep it simpler so you can see what's going on. A little bit easier. I am home, and what we're doing is we're taking an event, we're putting it as an attribute on this element directly in the code, and the code that's going to run from a JavaScript standpoint is right there. Semicolon to end your statement, and I'm going to do the same thing underneath it for the products on line 18. I'll say onClick equals, and I'll say alert, find out about our products. The majority of stuff that will happen to you will be punctuation, so be careful with your punctuation and you will be fine. I need to put that semicolon outside the parentheses. So I've got an onClick, I've assigned it this code, it's all is an attribute to the anchor tag. Let's save it, and I'm going to go over to Firefox and refresh and see what happens. And we've got find out about products. Home is not working. Let's go find out why. Products is working. So in home, we've got onClick equals alert. Oh my goodness, I left off here. Left off one of my single quotes. So let's save it. Go back, hit refresh. Home works. Products works. So what we've done here is we've taken an event and assigned it to an element as an attribute, directly putting the JavaScript inside the element. Now, next up, what we want to do is take our unobtrusive JavaScript theory and make it real. We're going to, on these last two, we're going to add an onClick inside this JavaScript document. So let's go over there, and Dreamweaver, I can just go up to the document toolbar and click on script. It's already pre-linked to this empty file for you, so you just need to switch over to whatever editor you're using. But if you notice in your HTML source code down here on line 83 for me, it just links directly out to script.js. So we just need to go over here and add some code. What we want to do is talk to it through the DOM. And through the DOM, we're going to talk about document.getElementById. The ID is about us. And then we're going to add the onClick. Remember .syntax, .onClick. And then we're going to say what this object and its properties are going to do. And we're going to call a function called aboutUsClick. Awesome. Now let's do the same thing. The most expedient way is to copy and paste this and replace the document getElementById instead of about us. We'll say contact us. And we'll change this function that it's assigning to this object and the event right there. So on this first line, we're talking to the about us ID, document.getElementById about us, watch your quotes, .onClick equals this function. So let's go down and create those functions. We will say function about us click. Copying and pasting would be nice, but I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way here for you guys. And let's see here. All we need to do is do a click event, or the alert here for the click event. So we'll say alert, and we'll say in here, tell me about yourself. Put in my quote, end it with a semicolon. Notice here's my curly braces. I can break these out if it helps, so that you understand exactly where the code block is for the function. It's denoted by the curly braces. Function about us click, parentheses, and the curly braces. We're using the parentheses here because we're defining the function. Up here we're not using it because we don't want to run it. We're assigning it to the value over on the left-hand side. So let's do another function. It's similar enough where if I'm pretty confident in this code and how I typed it, I'll copy it and paste it a couple of times and just change the name of it and what it's doing, which we'll say like us on Facebook for the about us. So let's test this. We've done a lot of work. So we've got a listener assigned, pretty much, and a handler going for each of those last two buttons in the navigation. So I'm going to go here and hit refresh. And once I hit refresh, home still works because it's inline and we've tested it. Product still works. About us works now. That's very cool. And contact us works. So I'm going to pause and do a second recording on the next set of instructions here in a second, but I want to review what's going on here one more time because this is all pretty new stuff to everybody. Our object is document, get element by ID is our method. Again, we've got a property there, or an event property of onClick, and we're assigning it this function. We're doing it for two different elements, and here's the functions we are assigning to those events. Wow. So, it all works. I'll see you on the flip side.